In this part of the lesson, we're going to take a look at our parveying tools. Okay, we've seen how we can place gemstones one by one, but we are now going to look at how we can parvey, place multiple gemstones on surfaces. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at our gems between two curves command and our scaled and uniform gem array commands. Okay, so we have other parveying tools available, and we'll take a look at these in a future lesson. So let's first of all create a block, a shape that we can parvey. So I'm going to use my quick shape command, place the block at the global origin. Let's give it some dimensions. Confirm. Okay, so we have a shape that we can parvey. I'm going to copy this, pick my shape, and copy it along a direction. Right click, use my inputting options along the x-axis, let's say 10mm, and we'll create two copies. Confirm. Okay, now I want to modify these shapes a little bit so they're not so uniform for placing our stones on. Okay, so first of all I'm going to add a draft to this block. Okay, so I could draft about an entire face, so I can draft the entire shape, but I just want to draft one of these sides. Okay, I do not want to draft in the other directions. So we can use our face draft. Okay, we pick a face, we pick an about. Okay, so I want to draft about this edge. We have our angle set. I think I'm going to change it slightly to about -8. Okay, so let's confirm the operation, and here we have our face draft. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to do is I'll give this block face offset, to drag it out, make it into more of a sheet. Okay, now I'm going to place two curves on this face. So come into the wireframe tab. I'm going to be using my curve on face 3 points command. Pick the face. Okay, we pick points on the face. Middle click to stop drawing. I can assign tangencies to my start and end points. Okay, I'm going to change the color of this line. Let's set it to be red. Confirm. Middle click to bring up the last operation. Pick my face. Pick some points. Okay, I can assign directions again. This one's fine. I'm going to change the color to green. Confirm. Okay, so now let's parvey these surfaces. Come into the parvey ribbon tab. Like I said, we're going to be looking at these three commands. Let's start off with the uniform gem array. Left click to bring up the command options panel, and it's going to also throw up our materials pop-out box. Okay, we can assign a gemstone type to our stones. Okay, once we've picked, we can close out of this box. Okay, we're then prompted to pick a curve. So let's pick this curve. Hover our cursor over it, it will highlight, and we can left click to pick the curve. Okay, then we can pick a surface. Okay, we come into our surface field, left click in it to activate it, pick our surface. Okay, and we get in our preview now. Now we have some other options available in our options panel. This field is our material assign field, so if we left click in here again, it's going to bring up our material panel where we assigned a gemstone before. Okay, moving down, we can change the size of our gemstones. So let's decrease it. We'll have 1mm diameter diamonds. Okay, we can add an elevation to our gemstones. can also increase the number, decrease the number. We can change the minimum distance between the stones. Okay, and we can also spread our stones along our curve. Okay, so it spreads them equally along. So if we increase our number, it's going to increase to a point where we can no longer fit any more stones of that size onto our curve. And when we increase our number beyond this, it's not going to place any more stones. Okay, so this is our uniform gem array. We pick a curve, and then we pick a surface. Okay, the curve is on the surface. Confirm the operation, and there we have our gemstones. Okay, notice we have our component datums thrown in on each gemstone. Okay, we can deactivate these within our layer manager. They are all assigned to our JCD datums layer. So left click on the light bulb to hide those datums. Okay, so now let's look at our scaled gem array. Left click to bring up the options panel. Okay, and it looks very similar. There's only a few fields that are different. We again have our materials window. We're prompted to pick our curve. Okay, then we have to pick our surface by left clicking in the field, left clicking on the surface. Okay, now what's different about this command is that we're producing scaled gems. Okay, so we specify the start diameter, the starting stone diameter, and then we can specify the end stone diameter. Okay, so our array will start with a 1mm stone and end with a 3mm stone. Okay, we have the same options in terms of elevation, minimum distance between stones, and the number. Okay, so let's maybe bring this down to 2. .5. Okay, we can spread our stones, increase our number, but we already have our max number in there. Okay, confirm the operation. And there we have our scaled gem array. Okay, so now let's look at our gems between two curves command. Okay, so this is going to bring up our materials panel again. Okay, but this time we're prompted to pick two curves and a surface. Okay, so we can pick edges as our curves. So let's start off on this block. We're going to pick these two edges, and the surface, this top face. Okay, something to bear in mind is when we're picking our curves, it's best to pick them at points opposite to one another. Okay, with this example it won't really matter, but we will see somewhere down the line where this can have an effect on our design. Okay, so we also have our elevation field. We can add our elevation to our stones. We can rotate them. Okay, in the case of round stones, it's not going to matter so much. We can change the minimum distance between the stones. We can spread them. Okay, spread them along the surface. And we can even out the stones. Okay, so evening out the stones will also take into account the endpoints. Okay, so we'll have an equal space around each stone. Okay, so you can play around with these depending on which you think looks best for your particular design. Here we can increase our number, and then we can add an oversize. Okay, so let me change my step size to 0.01, and then we can take a look at what this oversize will do. Okay, so if we bring our oversize to a negative number, it's going to decrease our gemstone size. Okay, positive number, it will increase the stone size. Okay, so we can make slight changes using our oversize to get the exact dimension of the stone we'd want, or the number of stones that we want on a surface. Okay, let's confirm the operation. Okay, so here we have a uniform array of gemstones using our gems between two curves command. Uniform because our curves are parallel. Okay, in the case where we have non-parallel curves, our gems between two curves command is going to create a scaled gem array according to the boundaries of the curves and the face. So again, let's pick our curves, pick our surface, and you can see already our scaled stones. Okay, we have the same options again. We can spread our stones, change our oversize a little bit, even them out. Okay, so this is our gems between two curves with non-parallel curves, and it creates scaled stones. Okay, sometimes we'll want to add elevations to our stones to bring them off the surface a bit. Okay, confirm the operation. Gems between two curves. Save our work. Okay, so now we need to add some prong settings to our stones to hold them in place. So we come into our gems and settings tab. We're going to be looking at our prongs settings here. Okay, now whilst I'm in here, let me show you the fit stones command quickly. This fit stones command is going to place a stone depending on where our point is and what other stones are within the vicinity of that point. Okay, so you can see where we're moving our cursor to, the command is going to read the stones within that area and place a gemstone in the space that will fit accordingly. Okay, so this is what that tool does, like so. Now before we begin looking at our prongs commands, I'm going to first mention our feature entity. Okay, so we've maybe had reference to this in a previous lesson, but we never really saw what a feature entity is. So if we set our entity filter onto feature, a feature can be a shape, it can be a draft or a fillet, it can be any number of things. A feature is something that has been produced through an operation. Okay, so this shape here, this block, this is a feature. If we hover our cursor over these shapes, okay, they both highlight because they are both produced in the same copy operation. They are a feature. Likewise, our paves are each features. Okay, so this can help when we're coming to picking our stones. They're also components, okay, but individually. With a feature entity, we can pick our stones all at once. And you can see how this is going to be useful when we're placing our prongs. Okay, so let's look at our uniform prongs command first. Okay, so we will generally want to use a uniform prong with a uniform gem array. Okay, so we have uniform array here and a uniform array here. Our scaled prongs we may wish to use on scaled paves. Okay, so as you can see, we can pick our stones individually for this command, but it's much easier if we set our entity filter into feature. So in our input panel, we're prompted to pick the stones. We can pick the feature as the stones. Okay, now you can see a preview of our prongs. We then have various options. We can set the minimum diameter that we want our prongs to come in as, the max diameter that we'll allow them to be, the depth that they will go into the surface, the height that they will come above the surface, Okay, the distance between the prongs that we want. Okay, so if we increase the distance, their diameter is going to increase. Okay, we can also change the overlap. Now the overlap is how much our prongs overlap with stones. So 50% overlap. We can see we have a 50% overlap from the center here. Okay, let's change this down to 25. Okay, and we're changing the overlap. Okay, so these different fields will have an effect on our prong diameter. Now, generally speaking, you would not want to use a prong that has a diameter of less than 0.3 millimeters for manufacturing purposes. Okay, so now we have a few more options. We can generate end prongs. Okay, this sometimes throws in prongs that are a bit too small, so we may not want to use that. We can generate virtual stones, okay, to add our end prongs. Okay, so here are our prongs. Let's confirm the operation to bring them in. Now when we place our prongs and confirm the operation, the tweak tool is brought up automatically, okay, and we can tweak our prongs here. If we do not want to make any modifications to our prongs, we can exit out of it. Okay, we can always use our tweak tool later on from our tools and cutters ribbon tab. Tweak tool. Okay, and we can pick our prongs. Okay, so here are our prongs thrown in on our stones. Now let's take a look at our scaled prongs. Okay, we can pick our stones, our feature. Okay, we might not get a preview. This means we need to play around with our settings. Yeah, let's bring our overlap down. Let's increase our distance or decrease it. This is going to bring in our prongs. Okay, so these prongs are scaled according to the stone size. Okay, so we have the same options available. Confirm the operation. We have the same tweak tool pop up. We can exit out of it. Okay, as you can see, we are missing some end prongs here. Okay, now we can add in our own prongs. We can use our manual prongs command. Okay, and we can specify the diameter, the height, the depth of these prongs, and we can place them at the points that we see fit. Alternatively, if we come into our Tools and Cutters tab, we can component replicate. We can use this to replicate the prongs that we like the size of. We left click. This is going to select that prong as our seed, and then we can place it at multiple points. Okay, so this is going to copy, duplicate those prongs. Okay, and in these circumstances, it can be a good thing to use. Okay, so these are our uniform and scaled prongs. Okay, we also have uniform and scaled 4-prong settings. These prong settings are throwing in 2 prongs between each of our stones. Our 4-prong tools is going to place 4 prongs on each stone. Like so. We can increase the size, the depth, we can change the height, here we can make changes to the overlap. We can also change the position of the prongs about the stone. Let's change my step size to 1. For these particular stones, a 4-prong setting may not be the best approach, as we'll have a few clashes here. there are our 4 prongs. Okay, you can see we have some clashes of prongs here. You may wish to delete one of these. Come into our erase command, pick the component, middle click. Okay, so I'm just showing you this. We're not trying to make a perfect pave here. Okay, next up we have our scaled 4 prongs. Okay, so it's going to work in the same way. We pick our feature. Okay, any of these prongs will be scaled according to the stone size. Okay, now bear in mind that every one of these prongs and these stones, they're all brought in as components. Okay, when we bring in a component, it is added into our root environment. You see how many, if I set my preview to graphic, we see we have our assembly here. We also have all of our prong components, okay, and our gemstone components. Okay, so now we have our prongs and our gemstones. We need to bring in some cutters to cut away material to allow our stone to sit there nicely. Okay, and we have these. We have cutters tool in our tools and cutters tab. Okay, so we have our tools here and then our cutters here. Now we have all of these different cutters. We have our azure cutters that will cut out material for our stone, but also cut all the way through to our bottom surface. We have some more basic cutters. We're going to be using our pilot cutter. Left click to bring up the options panel. We can then select our stones, okay, as the feature again. It's going to throw in our cutter preview onto these stones. Okay, we can pick multiple stones at once, multiple features at once. Okay, the software may need a bit of computation time. Okay, we can choose to elevate our cutters, confirm the operation. Our tweak tool will pop up and we can tweak our cutters. Okay, so remember we have to left click on the cutter in the left hand corner to bring up the attributes. Again, there are many to play around with. I'm going to leave them as they are for now. Okay, so we can just exit out of the tweak tool. Okay, so here are our cutters. They're all components. And now the goal is to merge these cutters as shapes and then combine and remove them from our base shape to give space for our stones to sit. So let's take a look at the shape of these cutters. If we blank out this shape, okay, we'll blank out a stone. Okay, so here we have our cutter. It's going to cut away the material from our shape to allow the stone to fit in there. Okay, at the moment our cutters are slightly smaller than our stone. Okay, so we may wish to tweak our cutters to give a little more room for our stones to sit. Okay, so we can do this. Come to tweak tool, pick the feature, left click, round pilot. Let's drop the pavilion down a little. Okay, the pavilion, this length here. -0.8, apply. Okay, you can see our preview. Our cutters are now encompassing all of our gemstones. Confirm. Okay, so let's unblank all and let's remove these cutters from the shape. So we can do this by either merging manually our cutters and then doing a combine remove, or we can use our merge cutters tool, which will perform both the operations in one go. So we can pick our cutters, as a feature. You could pick them one by one. Okay, and I've picked a prong by mistake, but this doesn't matter because we have a filter in this tool. This is going to filter all of our picked entities and use only the cutter components to remove from the base. Okay, so it's not going to remove this prong. Confirm the operation. Let's blank out one of these stones, and there you can see we have material removed by our cutter for our stone to sit. Okay, now our end goal, we would also want to merge our prongs, because at the moment they are components. We would want to merge them and combine them with our base to make one complete shape. Now, something to bear in mind is if we merge our prongs prior to merging our cutters, okay, we can merge our prongs by using the merge prongs tool, similar to the merge cutters tool, except we'll combine adding instead of combine removing. Now if we merge our prongs, set our entity filter to feature. Okay, remember we added these end prongs in separately, so they're not coming in as a complete feature. If you merge them to the base prior to merging our cutters, then our cutters will cut away material not only from our base but also from our prongs, because it is now one complete shape. Okay, so let's do this. Merge cutters, cutters, base, confirm. Okay, let's blank out this stone. And you can see that the cutters have removed material from our prongs as well. Whereas here, where we haven't merged our prongs yet, they're left unscathed. Now, depending on how you want to manufacture this, we may choose either method. Okay, maybe one of them will make the setting of the stones easier. Maybe we want to keep our prongs intact and add these notches in ourselves using a burr. Okay, so the choice is up to you. Okay, so now let's merge these prongs. Gem setting, merge prongs, pick the feature. Okay, again we have to pick our end prongs, pick the base, confirm the operation. Okay, and they've merged to create one shape nicely. Okay, now sometimes the merging of prongs will not go so smoothly as this. Maybe we'll have some coincident faces that are going to throw it off a little bit. If this does happen, the get around is to merge our prongs all as a base, and then we can add them to our shape in smaller segments to see which prongs are causing the issue with the combine add. Okay, and then we can move these prongs a little bit to allow our combine add to work successfully. Okay, and we will see an example of this in future lessons and go through exactly how we are to solve that problem, but it is in the manner that I just spoke about. Okay, for now we have a successful merge of our prongs and our cutters. Okay, so let's unblank all. So let's exit out of this, unblank all. Okay, we can change the colors. Okay, now our prongs are merged to the base. It is one complete shape. Okay, our stones are the only components left. Here we have a nice cutout of material for our stones to sit in.